Trustee Waters. I don't know.
He was in the kitchen.
Is he in the kitchen?
Now we're going to hear Nate eating back here.
No, I'm the stealthy.
Sharing his rapport.
Yeah, these are the papers. Oh, I didn't know that.
All right, I will call this meeting to order. The time is 1:06 p.m. Just notice of recording, these meetings are recorded and live streamed and then posted to our YouTube channel. I would ask for everyone to stand at this time. Oh, actually, land acknowledgement. Who has it?
Trustee Gould.
Trustee Gould.
Yo, thank you. Red Deer Public Schools acknowledges Treaty 6 territory to the north of the Red Deer River. Treaty 6 territory is the ancestral and traditional territory of the Nehiyawak, Dene, Blackfoot, Saulteaux, and Nakota Sioux. We also acknowledge Treaty 7 territory to the south of the Red Deer River. Treaty 7 territory is the ancestral and traditional territory of the Blackfoot Confederacy, Kainai, Piikani, Siksika, as well as the Tsuut'ina First Nation and Stoney Nakoda First Nation. We acknowledge the land that Red Deer is now on is traditional territory of the Métis, and we are part of Region 3 with Métis Nation of Alberta. We acknowledge and give thanks to all the many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit whose footsteps have marked these lands for centuries. We are grateful for elders and traditional knowledge keepers who are still with us today and those who have gone before. Recognizing and acknowledging traditional land is an act of reconciliation and a show of gratitude to those whose territory we reside on.
Thank you very much, Trustee Gould. I would ask everyone to stand for the singing of O Canada, please.
Strong and free, from far and wide, O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. Our King, our land, glorious and free. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. Oh, Canada, we stand on guard for thee.
Thank you. Approval of the minutes. Any changes, omissions, errors? Look for a motion.
Approval.
Thank you very much. Trustee Manning, all those in favor? Carried. Approval of the agenda, additions, changes. I will be adding 10.1 administrative reappointments. And I will add 10.2 relocation of alternative school center and bumping everything in the governance agenda down by 2. Any other changes? Trustee McCulley?
I'd like to propose an addition. I would like to add a public acknowledgement of our policy 19, our sexual orientation, gender identity, and gender expression. Under specifically number 4, it says the division will support, declare, and officially recognize the celebration of Pride Week and related activities. I would like the board at that time to talk about what the board and the district is doing at that time.
Okay, where would you like that agenda item to be added?
Wherever you feel would be appropriate.
Uh, 10.3.
Okay.
And then move everything else in the governance agenda down another one. I look for a motion to approve the agenda as amended. Trustee Waters, all those in favor? Thank you. We do not have any recognition on this agenda. We are moving into our governance agenda. 10.1, administrative reappointments. Superintendent Erickson.
Yes, thanks very much. As we come to the conclusion of another school year, we have a number of administrators that are either in their first year in administration as vice principals or in a new administrative position in the division, coordinator positions at Central Services. We have a number of individuals in their third year as vice principals undergoing evaluation, and we have a number that are concluding their 5 years as principal. I'm very pleased with the leadership of all these individuals. They're doing quality work in our schools, and I am very pleased to recommend that all of these individuals continue in their administrative roles within Red Deer Public.
Thank you very much, Superintendent Erickson. Vice Chair Peacock.
I move that the board accept the administrative reappointments as recommended by the superintendent.
Thank you very much. All those in favor? Carried. 10.2, relocation of alternative school center. Superintendent Erickson.
Thank you very much. For the past 10 years, our alternative schools, specifically Outreach School Center and Quest High School, have been housed in Park Plaza, next door to Central Services here. Back in December, we were approached by school administration with a new vision that would include a move to our school location that's in the Pines, and they brought forward a new vision and what the next 3 to 5 years looks like for alternative programming in Red Deer Public Schools. I believe this is a good move for all of the students, staff, and community. It provides for some of the change in instructional methodology that the school is proposing, and it provides some financial relief to the division as we would be getting out of a leased space and then entering into one of our existing buildings.
Thank you very much, Superintendent Erickson. Any questions? Trustee Manning?
Thank you. If I could just ask one quick question now that you've made that comment. How will this affect North Cottage in any way?
North Cottage students that want to enter into the Pines may do so. North Cottage will still exist as a school building. It just may be used for grade 13, grade 14, and adult learners.
Thank you. Yeah, so my understanding then is that our policy 15 does not align currently with the School Act. So my first motion would be that I move to temporarily suspend policy 15, school closure, while the superintendent brings it into alignment with the education.
Thank you very much. With regards to that motion, all those in favor? Correct. And you said that that's your first?
So then my second motion would be that as per section 62B, I move that the board transfer students of the alternative programs from Park Plaza to our Pines location effective September 1, 2022, following notification to parents of all students enrolled and any other community organization that may be impacted.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Friendly amendment and students. I mentioned about that, so it's not just parents, because these are adults in some cases.
Okay, I would consider that a friendly amendment if the floor considers it a friendly amendment.
Thank you very much. All those in favor? Carried. All right. 10.3, SOGI policy number 19, Trustee McCulley.
Thank you very much. Since our board a few years ago moved to have board meetings once a month, our next board meeting isn't until June 8th. And per our policy 19, number 4, it states the division will support, declare, and officially recognize the celebration of Pride Week and related activities in June, which reflect the importance of inclusion, acceptance, and proactive support for the 2SL GBTQIA+ identities cultures, and communities. So I was wondering if there is a official announcement on when the board and the district will be doing a official recognition and a flag raising.
I would like input from the board. That is a conversation that we actually had at senior admin meeting today in terms of how the board would like to officially proclaim, recognize, and open up celebrations within our schools and across the division.
Okay, and if I may just add to it, I am excited and supportive that individual schools are celebrating the way they want to celebrate it, but as a board, I feel this is our last in-person opportunity to talk about how we're gonna do that before June is quickly upon us. So I would like to recommend that we do a flag raising on the 1st, is what I'd like to put out to the board.
Other trustees? Vice Chair Peacock, go ahead.
So would the flag raising occur here at central office? Is that where?
That would be my recommendation, because that's the only really place that, as a board, we could be overseeing it.
I'm just wondering about the flag poles outside. We have one with the Canadian flag. Do we have one with the Alberta flag? I'm wondering about protocol on, I don't think we can put anything on where the Canadian flag is, because, so that's what I'm looking for, is the protocol on how we would, and the logistics of where we would put the flag. Do we have an Alberta flag out there, Diane?
We have one here.
Which is just the Canadian flag pole out there, so I don't know.
Trustee Summers, go ahead.
Would it be appropriate to add a permanent flag pole out there for this flag?
It is
that
something
need to
that
be a
has been
motion?
discussed. Vice Chair Peacock?
So I'm certainly in favor of having the pride flag out front, and whether that be for pride in June or permanently. But I don't know what the cost of a flagpole, and then it has to be cemented into the ground. So that would be my only question, perhaps before we approve it.
Here on the side.
Oh, up here where we have our, okay, sure.
Just to bring it to everyone's attention, it is Indigenous Cultural Camp on June 1st, as well as some people will be participating in PSBAA events that day. Would it be appropriate to have it maybe Tuesday, May 31st in the evening and mark it and promote it so we could have some sort of an event here? Bruce?
Yeah.
We did some follow-up with our SOGI coordinator and just taking an idea in terms of where schools are at. And my understanding at this point is that a number of the schools are looking at celebrating Pride Week within their schools the week of June 6th. Now, we don't have all of that information, so I'm not sure if the board would like to do it on the 1st at the beginning of the month or in alignment where any of the schools are doing their celebrations.
Trustee McCauley?
My recommendation and suggestion is that the board is a leader in this, and if we get ours done first, and then it leaves our availability free to participate in other school activities, that would be my want this time.
With regards to having it in the evening of the 31st, how are you feeling about that?
If that doesn't cause any kind of, if we're not crossing any rules and we're not being disingenuous to anyone, I think that would be great.
And then it's already up when we start June 1st.
Yeah, sure, it's a good kickoff.
Superintendent Erickson, I'm looking at your calendar.
Just to double check. That evening's available.
Perfect.
I'm wondering if during the day, that perhaps some of the staff could be there. It's a medium, maybe, I don't know, perhaps more likely than in the evening. And again, up to people's schedules, I can do it in daytime or evening.
4:30, right when we're ending, central services is ending, and kind of the end of the day for other people in the community, maybe. End of day for school is also done, so if students want to participate and attend, it opens up that.
4 o'clock.
4 o'clock?
Yeah, we can make a big deal of it.
Does 4 o'clock work?
Cake.
I'm just
Trustee Waters?
wondering if that'll give enough time for the public to get here by 4:30, especially if you work till 4 or whatever, right? I don't know, I'm just questioning the time if 4 o'clock will work.
I think one of the things that we always have to consider is we can't always make everybody happy. I think 4 is a pretty good compromise. You will have your high school students that are just kind of ending their day and haven't really necessarily gone home, and having them to come back out. Some people are done work, not everyone, unfortunately.
Okay.
I think 4 is a pretty good compromise. Any other arguments? Debate, 4 o'clock on May 31st it is. Trustee McCauley.
Can I request that we put out a media release that this will be happening?
Social media?
So the public, or however we share with the community what we're doing, so if people have more questions or they want to attend, they will have the update.
Yes.
And is this where we would move to make the flag permanent? Or, because you talked a little bit about that, right? So that it becomes a very strong statement. And you see lots of businesses, lots of churches and stuff that have the flag out, and it's there as a reminder of the safe and welcoming environment and inclusive.
I know that there was a conversation had with regards to the logistics of the flag, and I think there's more with regard, do you recall what it was?
Would it be possible to put that on our June agenda? So we
Sure.
have time to
Yeah.
get some information about it and,
And follow recognized flag protocol as well.
yeah,
Yeah,
would
good,
that be
good.
okay?
Yeah.
All right,
Okay, so bueno, then.
10.4, do you want to make a motion with regards to that, or are we good with the understanding that's going to be May 31st?
Well,
Will the
I'm
board-
going the direction of the board. I think since it's a media thing, that a motion would probably be in the best interest for clarification as well.
Okay.
So if I may, because I'm not gonna leave it up to our secretary to come up with the wording. That the Board of Trustees recognize that, May 31st at 4 p.m. there will be an official rising of the pride flag at Central Services, open to the public.
Does anyone else need that? Do you have your hand up?
I don't know, are you allowed to go to the gallery?
Not usually, but I certainly, I can.
Sure you can, if you want.
I think it's up, I think we had this conversation, it is up to the will of, I get to make the decision, right?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Okay, well, I'm just willing to gladly open, for those of you who are aware, our DARE committee, Diversity, Equity, Human Rights Committee, is spearheaded by Tanya DeLitzoy. So the local would be more than glad to collaboratively somehow participate with this, because our DARE committee right now is certainly looking at lots of things that we're doing around various schools. So if you would like to work collaboratively on that May 31st, I not only would be involved myself, but I know I can speak on behalf of Tanya, that she would be thrilled to take part.
I think that would be extremely appreciated. It also touches on our values of collaboration, so.
And the unity within,
Yes,
right? Yeah.
so after this meeting, if you can be in touch with Superintendent Erickson to collaborate and work together with the DARE committee for May 31st, that would certainly be really appreciated.
Definitely.
Thank you very, very, very much. With regards to the motion on the floor, Colin.
Could you read the motion again, please?
Sure. The Board of Trustees, and if I get this wrong, please correct me. So Diane McCauley moves that the Board of Trustees officially recognize Pride Month by having an official Pride flag, is it rising?
Raising, yeah.
Raising on May 31st at 4 p.m. at Central Services. Does that make,
I think you included it, the.
and open to the public?
Okay, thank you.
Okay, all those in favor? Carried. All right, thank you very much, Trustee McCully. 10.4, enrollment summary report, Associate Superintendent Ronnie Burtz.
Thank you. You can see in your package, our enrollment this month has jumped by 6 students to 10,992. Here within 8 students of 11,000, which we haven't seen since the 18-19 school year. So I'm got my fingers crossed that when I'm here a month from now, we'll hit that 11,000 mark again. If there's any questions, I'll be more than happy to answer.
Thank you very much. Look for a motion.
Motion to accept.
Oh, do we need a motion?
Thank you very much. All those in favor of accepting the report as information?
I don't know if we need one, but anyway, because we'll run that later. But I thought that's what she said, but anyway, oops, I'll shut up. Not for long.
10.5, Ultimate Science Trip 2023 proposal, Superintendent Erickson.
Yeah, so you have in your board package a field study request, a category field trip submitted by West Park Middle School. In submitting the request for approval, they provided all of the necessary components of the proposed field trip for the Board of Trustees. And the submitted request is in accordance with the requirements of AP 260, which is purchasing. Competitive quotes have been obtained for the proposed field trip, and a provisional vendor has been identified subject to the approval of the field trip by the Board of Trustees. I want to bring attention specifically within this field study request, the attention to equity that has been provided within their field study request. Looking for as many opportunities and ways to support as many individuals attending that field trip as possible through a number of different activities of fundraising, scholarship, and other avenues to help support students on their excitement to go on this field trip, I would say. So it is my recommendation that the Board of Trustees approve the proposed West Park Middle School trip to Central Florida, USA from April 6th to April 14th. 2023.
Thank you very much, Superintendent Erickson. Trustee Manning.
Thank you. I always appreciate the extensive amount of information that is provided about this experience. I have seen this field trip come to us a number of times. I'm not sure how many years it's come, but it's sort of the incredible people who organize it do a great job, and they've got a lot of experience behind them, and I think it provides a lot of good educational experience for our students. And I do appreciate the emphasis that they place on equity and trying to make sure that all students get a chance to participate. So with that, I would like to move that the Board of Trustees approve the proposed West Park Middle School field trip to Central Florida, USA from April 6, 2023 to April 14, 2023.
Thank you very much. I do have people on my list. Trustee Summers, go ahead.
So I do definitely appreciate the extensive study that's gone into this, and have no doubt that it's a fantastic trip and opportunity for a lot of students. The reality is that some students who would benefit from this trip won't have accessibility to it. It's just the reality. I'd like to bring that up. And I'd like to bring up the risk factors that are current, COVID being one. It's still unknown, and I find that quite risky. Being separated from your child with no accessibility to your child during times of COVID and times where climate disasters are more common. I find that just the timing right now is risky for those two reasons. There's also an impact to the planet, which we should be sensitive to these days. So there's a very big carbon footprint that needs to be talked about. There's also a trip to Disney that might not align with parents' values and ethics. And so although the science definitely would align, that part may not align. So then again, there is an accessibility to students that would want to go, but their parents' values and ethics don't align with it. So I'm just putting it out there that I don't believe it's accessible and the risk factors are high with this trip. Thank you.
Trustee Gould?
Sort of along these lines, but not really on a certain level. One of the things I'm wondering if we can move it in whether it goes into a policy about mitigation in flying, because as we know, we're all in this soup, and so whether or not we look at the possibility and it's baked into a proposal going forward that if you're flying, then there are mitigation steps, i.e. money that are put in to support projects that are helping mitigate climate change. Because a lot of organizations are doing this and it's readily available, so I'm just saying whether or not that becomes a piece of the filter that we use when we are moving towards using airplanes for trips and travel and stuff. So I think that is a question that comes up and is certainly part of science and awareness of what's going on in the world and what impact we have. So whether it's about raising awareness plus maybe some kind of a mitigation piece.
Sorry, can I seek clarification with regards to that, Trustee Gould? Are you touching on an environmental policy?
Well, whether or not that's a good question, because whether or not that becomes part of what we look at in a larger environmental policy that would then include things like trips. So we're saying, okay, this falls into the purview or not. So it gets debated at that time. I'm not sure, because in some ways these are early days and we're looking at this thing. Now, I'm not sure what you were meaning about the parents not supporting Disney, because I was about to say Florida has just passed the Don't Say Gay law in their state, and they've cut Disney off from being able to manage its own. Disney traditionally was able to govern that whole part of Orlando, do taxes, all that kind of stuff, and they were dealing with infrastructure. But Florida has said, because you're opposed to our Don't Say Gay law, we are cutting you off, and now we're taking this over. So it's just a question of saying this awareness and the context in which we're doing these trips and where we're going, including someone like SeaWorld. So do we go to SeaWorld, because there are lots of controversies around the treatment of animals and all that kind of stuff at SeaWorld, and are we having conversations about it and finding the rationale? Are we supporting that, let's say, that place by going to it? Not, in other words, are there conversations that are putting things in context and awareness for the kids? So I'm not coming out and saying, well, no, Nanette, but I'm saying these are things we can no longer travel around the world blindly and say, well, we aren't thinking about it. It's like people sitting there with their trucks running, because you've got to start thinking about these things. So it's more points of things that flashed for me.
Thank you very much, Trustee Gould. I think that we have had a conversation that, speaking with regards to an environmental conversation, is going to be coming forward at some point in the next few months. So that will be touched on. I think as a board, we need to stay focused on the field study that has been presented to us with regards to the relevancy. They have provided a purpose for the proposed field trip with regards to risk factors, and in speaking to Trustee Summers, and Trustee Gould, you've touched on some wonderful points as well with that's happening in Florida. At the end of the day, if it is a field study that is supported by our board, it is parental choice at the end of the day with regards to what a parent wants to allow their child to go on, or parent or guardian, and that is ultimately their choice and decision at the end of the day. I do have a speakers list. Trustee Waters, go ahead.
You took all my thunder.
Great.
I'm not prepared to tell a parent that they can or cannot go on a plane. That's really their decision. As long as the schools meet the criteria that we set forth, we need to support them. Is there a lot of things happening on in Florida? You bet there is. A lot of things. A lot of things we can't control. That's just how it is. But you go to the environment because you know what's going on. They know what's going on up there. It's been in the news forever, and it'll stay in the news forever. The concern that I have, I think there was around 56 that applied for this or was hoping to go, was there not? And then 45 out of the 56 are going. If that's the case, my question is, what happened to the letter? I didn't know.
No, this is the proposal that's been put forward. They haven't identified the number of individuals that'll be going on the trip at this point. They'll accept up to 88.
Okay, because it says number of students participating, 45.
There's 11 supervisors.
No, I know that. But, okay, sorry, right, including supervisors, okay,
Right.
I'm sorry, okay. All right, and the other thing is too, I mean, these that have come to us in the past, they've known about this for a while, so they've done whatever they can as far as fundraising goes. But at the end of the day, like Trustee Buchanan said, they will decide whether or not their students will go. I mean, the board can say yes or no, but at the very end of the day, it's still up to the parents that really has the final say. So I definitely support what they're doing. I wish I could have done it many years ago, but it didn't happen. But I'm prepared as long as the world's safe and we're following protocol that we support these kids.
Thank you very much. Just because this is a conversation that we did have prior to, with a previous board, when COVID was what it was, with regards to speaking to, insurance actually stepped up and covered us very, very well with regards to when we canceled our field trips. So depending on what's going on at the time, we were looked after by insurance, thankfully. Trustee Summers, I have you on my speakers list.
Oh, I was just referring to the Disney, and that it's an ethical, Disney's an ethical conversation. For me, it's I haven't taken my children to Disney because I have ethical issues with Disney. I just, so other parents may as well.
Trustee McCullough.
Oh, thank you. I'm very enlightened by the points that were brought up by members around this table. And just for clarification on what Chair Buchanan, what you said, is there a time specific that we will be relooking at the criteria on what schools need to have in place before they put forward a field trip to us? Because it looks like it needs to maybe be looked at again. Because the world has changed, the board has changed, and it has been a while since we looked at it. This fits the criteria of what was in place when they scheduled it. But now it seems like we have some concerns on what that criteria was. So I would appreciate a date set on when we look at it again so we can get prepared to what we want to maybe add or delete in the criteria.
Superintendent Erickson?
Yeah, I think where it got convoluted is I think there was a request for an exploration of an environmental policy separate to the policy around field studies. So I could ask for clarification on that. I believe that was the conversation, whether or not we have a standalone environmental policy that may include pieces that impact our field studies.
And for clarification again, is the nuts and bolts that go into the criteria under the board's responsibilities, or again, is this a superintendent, senior admin, straight procedure?
Category 3 field trips in the admin procedure require board approval before moving forward.
So we could re-evaluate what is in there?
Before you approve the trip, yes.
Or our next one?
Right.
Okay, so I would like to put forward that within a certain amount of time, whatever that is, within the next 6 months, but before a year, that we bring it forward to the board and we are at that time available to make input and suggestions on possible changes
Thank you very much, Trustee McCullough. Is that the will of the board?
by the end of 2022.
Okay, so for clarification, you are requesting that by the end of 2022, the board review the outlined field study request as they are current
For category 3 field trips.
for category 3 field trips. I have a couple with regards to that.
Yeah, I just want a clarification. Now, is that just North America or is that Canada too?
Category 3 is the only outside of Canada.
Okay, I'd like to look at the ones in Canada too. Because if we're gonna do one, we gotta look at them all. We just can't cherry pick which ones we're gonna do. So if we're gonna go field trips, I'd say, hey, let's do them all. And let's look to see what we've got, what's right, what's wrong, and
Category 1 and 2 field trips are under superintendent approval. they don't come to the board for approval. For instance, our recent Quebec trip does not come to the board for approval before moving forward. It goes through superintendent office for approval.
Can we not have a discussion with you on that then?
We could.
Okay.
If that's the will of
Again,
the board.
will of the board, so that's another question. Okay, as it stands right now, is it the will of the board with regards to trustee McCulley's, Vice Chair Peacock is with regards to question, go
Yes,
ahead.
it is. I would hesitate to put a deadline of this at the end of December this year, in that we haven't begun developing an environmental policy, if in fact that's the direction we go. And I'd rather that the environmental policy was considering field trips, so I would say that for sometime next year, maybe next spring. I think field trips generally come to us in the spring for the board to approve. That'd be the spring of 2023 that we would, I just don't want us to be putting the cart before the horse, so that we're doing a field trip expectation on environment before we've actually developed our environmental policy.
I don't think that it's necessarily specific to environment, it is an overall, look at, level C field trips, correct? Field-
Right, and if I may clarify, I want it brought to the board at least before then. We may not approve it or change anything for another few many months, but what I've noticed, if we don't have a date specific, sometimes we get lost in other crises that come up.
All right, is it the will of the board to review level C field?
Category 3.
Sorry?
Category 3.
Category 3, field study requests by the board, show of hands.
Could we ask that there's no moratorium on field trips until that's heard?
That there is no moratorium, so they can
Yeah.
keep presenting until we've reevaluated.
Correct.
Show of hands, all those in favor
Of which thing again?
of yours?
Okay,
All those opposed? It is carried with a vote of 4-3. So that will be coming back, in a year, before, okay? With regards to, trustee Waters' question, with regards to bringing it to the board for all field trips.
So,
Yeah, and I guess if I can explain that for a minute, I just want to make sure that we're looking at everything possible. Even if we go across Canada, we're looking at everything, because if there is something that goes wrong, it's going to come back to the board.
Yes, you're right. But
And-
but the way I look at it is, it currently is something that our superintendent looks at, and I trust our superintendent to look at it with the same eyes that we do, with regards to, field study requests. But, that is your question, so are those what, category B?
Yeah, but like, it's not that I don't trust our superintendent.
No, I'm not
I
saying
just
that
want
you
to
don't.
understand the process involved in that. That's all.
So I think with both situations, you're asking for a memo be brought forward looking at criteria required as part of
Yes.
field studies in Red Deer Public
Yes.
in both situations. It's a
Yes.
memo coming forward talking about here are the pieces that need to be a part of a field study within our division.
Yes. That's all. It's not like I'm,
No, I know, I didn't mean it like that.
no, it's fine.
Trustee Gould.
So I guess what I'm hearing, it sounds like we're sort of talking about kind of two things. One is a reevaluation of that policy, which then might have an environmental lens applied to it, which might then lead to, as Kathy was saying, the environmental policy may be leading, so that then we know that that's the filter and the lens, so that we're looking at that and we're saying, okay, how does travel fit into this lens that we're doing? So the idea of moving and developing an environmental policy, not necessarily in tandem, but moving that along, because other issues are gonna come up that this lens needs to be applied to, as far as I'm concerned.
And we have had that conversation, if you recall, the environmental conversation is coming back. We are gonna be discussing it.
If so directed, yes.
I believe it had been, had it not? No?
No, we had kicked it around, but I think it's it feels like it's a time to say, let's move on it, pick times and
Direction.
potentially begin to work on it.
Superintendent Anderson?
I don't know, but can we bring focus back to the
Field
ultimate
study?
science strip field study at this point to?
Yes, and I have Dan on my list, go ahead.
I just want a clarification to help answer Trustee Summers' question in regards to risk mitigation. In the admin procedure, there is 7.5 that refers to the responsibility after approval of a field trip to the approving authority monitoring levels of risk associated with the field trip. And so typically it does state the authority, whether the principal, superintendent, or board. Typically that falls back on the principal under the direction of the board, under the direction of the superintendent. And that falls, it's not in here written per se, but usually within 2 weeks before that trip happens, a week, we keep checking that. The superintendent sends out to the principals. And there has been precedent where the board has reversed a decision to allow a trip to take place, because I was involved in that going to Egypt. And some safety things came up. And so you will be provided that opportunity at that time with a clear picture on COVID and other things to be able to say, no, we no longer approve this trip. And we let parents know ahead of time that they're on the hook for that cost, and they sign up with that understanding that, and we have to have a special meeting where we sign off, and Colin helped us develop that meeting with the parents where they understand at any moment the board could remove its approval for this trip, and they are willing to sign up and go ahead. So there is that little bit of a safety mitigation.
And insurance as well.
Colin?
I can just add on to that is that when we had the COVID issues where all the trips were canceled, we had a policy in place, and that policy is still in place, and the wording is still the same, and there's just slight adjustments that reference COVID, so it kind of protects us a little bit more. But all the wording is the same, so if the trip has to be canceled within prior to 48 hours, then everything falls within the same wording and stuff. Once it gets a little closer, obviously, the wording changes and the refund obviously decreases, right? But it's probably the best insurance policy available anywhere, so we'll endorse it. So.
Thank you very much. With regards to the motion on the floor from Trustee Manning, Trustee Manning, you want to reword or say what that motion was again, please?
Yes, I move that the Board of Trustees approve the proposed West Park Middle School trip to Central Florida, USA from April 6, 2023 to April 14, 2023.
Thank you very much. All those in favor? All those opposed? It's carried 6-1. All right. 10.6. Oh,
Can I just get clarification on what the request of the board is in terms of a memo coming back? Is it specific to category 3 or all levels of field trip?
all right, so category 3 was a definite yes. All other field trips, a show of hands for trustees who are one. You have,
Not all field trips, like, not just like flying field trips, not like going to Rocky Mountain House or, isn't there a level there where?
That's a friendly amendment, I'll take that.
Okay.
so domestic field trips where you were required to get on a plane,
Yes.
okay? Is it the will of the board for a memo to come back with regards to those field trips? Show of hands for yes. Show of hands for no. That's carried 4-3. So yes. Memo with regards to both. 10.6, spring budget. Colin Kearney.
So attached to the memo is details surrounding the 2022-2023 spring budget that has been prepared, and it needs to be provided to Alberta Education prior to May 31st, 2022. Along with that is the report that is provided by Alberta Education. Yesterday morning, I had the opportunity to meet with the audit committee, and we reviewed the budget in detail. detail, so I guess I could turn it over at this point to the chair of the audit committee, Trustee Waters.
Yeah, that's quite something to get used to, Chair, right? We did meet yesterday, we went over the budget and basically there's no problems. We're on the right road and let's just hope that everything works out the way it should. But, you know, you don't know about the unseen, but Colin's done a great job and his staff and it was a good meeting. So I would like to move.
To move where?
Oh, some days, I tell you, anywhere.
That the Board of Trustees approve the 2022-2023 spring budget report revenues of $123 million, or $123,009,234. Why couldn't it just be a rounded number? And expenses of $125,509,234, resulting in a $2.5 million deficit budget. Trustee Manning?
Yeah, I just wanted to know if our superintendent could comment on our reserves for a moment, or if you would like to defer that to.
You pose the question and then we'll determine who
Well,
can best answer it.
can you just talk about how much we have in reserves and how much that 2.5 million will cut into that? And if there is a plan to spend down the reserves. My concern is growing every single day, that the government will come and sweep away our reserves. They will take it away. Every indication, when I hear the minister speak, she speaks about the province having, I can't even remember the figure, but it's a large figure in reserves.
468 million.
Yeah, across the province. And, you know, I mean, I can understand when people are pounding them for more education funding, and she sees all this money sitting out there. I can understand her response, but for us, you know, I mean, we have a plan, we have a budget that we talk about, and today we're going $2.5 million into it. So perhaps there's just a comment we can make about how we're going to spend these monies and what's left after this.
Sure, I will defer the number side to Colin to speak to in terms of where we're at. If you, I'll do a preamble. If you recall, for the 21-22 school year, we budgeted for a $4 million deficit going into our reserves, quite substantially, and then for the 22-23, budgeting for a $2.5 million deficit. So over those 2 years, we're drawing down our reserves by $6.5 million. Colin, you can talk about the total that we had prior to that.
Going by memory, but I believe the reserves at the end of our fiscal year, August 2021, was 10.9 million, I believe. And then if you take those numbers into account, obviously I'm currently watching our spending at this point, or whatever. We do have a few more months left, or whatever, but we are definitely spending what we anticipated to. So I expect us to hit the budget deficit of 4 million. And then of course we have a few capital projects that are taking place this summer, and then carrying into next year. So with those capital projects, we should, and I think the number is 3.8 million is what our targeted reserves are. So with those numbers, we should easily hit that targeted 3.8, which is the 3.15% that the government requires us to have for August 2023. And if we
now,
don't,
I want to clarify, because you said requires us to have.
Yes.
If I might, Chair, do they require us to have that, or is that what we're allowed to have?
That's maximum.
Yeah,
That's the maximum they've
so,
said.
Right,
yeah.
so
For next year, you can only have 3.15.
Right. So yeah, I guess they require us, and we must, but also there's at that time when we realize those numbers, because it's not like on August 31st you must have that number. It's like when you submit your audited financial statements at the end of November. So between August 31st and November, while we're doing our completion of our financial statements, we'll know exactly what our number is, and there are some options for us to look at that and come up with a plan, so if there is some funds that are left over, then the board can make a decision if they wanna, have the option of moving those funds into capital reserves as well, right? So there are options, so, it's not in the sense that if you are $500,000, over that, then I'll automatically lose it, right? We can, explore it at that time to make the decisions, what we wanna do with those funds and if we wanna move them into capital. We just have to come up with a project that, has an end date. That's one option. There's a couple other options, but that's one of them, so.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I've added myself to the speakers list. So it is my understanding that there is also a recommendation, Board of Trustees approve the 2022-2023 school and transportation fees. Is it my understanding that we are no longer receiving school fee funding and we will not be introducing any school fees, and that the basic instruction and option fee allocation will remain the same for this upcoming school year, and that allocation will match the same allocation that schools have received over the past couple of years? Okay. Thank you very much. On my speakers list I have Trustee Waters.
I understand what you're saying, Trustee Manning, I really do. But I guess the caution part of me also realizes too, when we met with the minister, she expects boards to keep some reserves. When we need that, I mean, if we were to spend everything, it'd be just one time where you say we're gonna hire a whole bunch of teachers or EAs or LATs or whatever, then what do you do the next year? So I think it's really important that we keep a reserve. I wish that the government would start going after the ones that really have the reserves and leave us alone, but unfortunately, they like to put everybody in the same fishbowl, and they do it. So I do think that we need to have reserves. And when we use them, we don't just blow them to do something, we need them because we need them. And my fear is when we run out, then we have to make drastic cuts, and I really don't wanna go there. So I think we have a good system, we have good people that work for us, and I think our students benefit from what we do, and I'll keep fighting to keep reserves. If the government wants to take it away, then they can face the public, and because they can only blame school boards for so much. And I think that we've done a really good job with our managing our money, and I trust Colin and our senior mint to keep doing what they do, and they're doing a great job. So thank you.
Trustee McCauley.
Thank you. I think our reserves are high. I do. I believe that we need reserves, but I'm also on the same kind of thought level as you, Trustee Manny, that there's something brewing that I don't think we are quite in the know yet on what is going to be happening to all the school boards' reserves, because we are going to be lumped in with every other school board as well. So, but we had an opportunity to talk about how much we were going to spend earlier this spring. So I'm not prepared at this time to make any other different suggestions, but I am prepared to be open to a suggestion if it gets happened in the fall. So just know that. You know what makes me sad about this budget, Colin? Is the 10 pages of school fees. It really, really broke my heart. At first, I was delighted at the amazing things we offer to every grade. Every grade is in here. But gosh, if for me, these are under basic instruction. You know, I really wish all our kids in, you know, not only Red Deer Public, but all Alberta, Canada, all around the world could participate in everything that makes their school community a place that they want to keep going. I wish it could be free. I really do. Even these ones that say it's $3 for this. It's like, really? It just breaks my heart. So it isn't anything that you did, but it did. It just 10 pages of what parents have to shell out for. Just
All right, on my speakers list, I have Vice Chair Peacock, Trustee Waters, and then Superintendent Erickson.
So I'm comfortable with what we're looking at for our reserves. It is aligned with our system administration funding of $3.819 million, and it will be as of the end of next summer, which is when this comes into place, that it needs to be no more than your system's administration funding, right? Just a question, because now that we have the weighted moving average for enrollment calculations of funding, what is, so this is the spring budget, but we have to also submit a budget for the upcoming school year in November, by the end of November. Not anymore, so that has been dropped because of the weighted moving average. So this is our spring budget, but in fact, this is our budget for 2022, 2023.
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much.
Trustee Waters?
One question on our fees. I keep seeing field trips and I see activity fees. That doesn't tell me what really it is. And everyone's got activity fees and everyone's different. But is there a better explanation than just activity fees, or it's just all simple and that's it?
Some schools do just charge a activity fee or a field trip fee, and then that captures one or could capture 5 trips within the year. Because an elementary school may just do a few in-town trips, and so it just captures that. So gives the parents the opportunity to pay once, and then they aren't going after them for asking for $4 here and $6 there. It's just a one-time only fee. So that's and some of the would be the middle school, so it's directly related to the program that the school, the option classes that the students are attending. So it's more specific to that, right? So, but it just depends. Right?
Okay, thank you.
Superintendent Erickson?
Yeah, I appreciate the conversation around reserves and spending down reserves, and I think we did have a healthy amount of reserves heading into the 2021-22 school year. We had a lot of unknowns. I don't think the goal of this administration is to get to a point where we're spending today's dollars on today's students. The dollars we receive from the ministry moving forward will be our go-forward expenditures for those years, and our schools will be in a place where they know exactly what their budget is year after year. They know what they can spend, and they feel comfortable replacing items in their school that they need to replace, and we're not looking at saving dollars. We want to expend what we have and not build up those reserves any further. We want to get to a healthy level that we're comfortable with having in case of an emergency, but then the rest of the dollars go into different programming, instruction, everything else that we have to offer within Red Deer Public. So that is our goal.
Thank you very much, Superintendent Erickson. With regards to the motion on the floor, there is 2 recommendations here. Do you need 2 separate motions? Okay. With regards to the first one, I will repeat it, that the Board of Trustees approve the 2022-2023 spring budget report with revenues of $123,009,234 and expenses of $125,509,234, resulting in a $2.5 million deficit budget. That motion is being made by Trustee Manning. All those in favor? Carried. There is also another recommendation from the superintendent. I'd look for a motion for that. Trustee Manning, go ahead.
I would move that the Board of Trustees approve the 2022-2023 school and transportation fees.
Thank you very much. All those in favor? Carried. Moving on to 10.7, locally developed courses. Deputy Superintendent John Lauer.
Thank you very much. You have a memo before you that shows a list of courses that we are asking to be reapproved for use by our high schools in the fall of 2022. Locally developed courses are courses that are developed by school divisions that fall outside of the prescribed program of studies by Alberta Education, and they add extras into our education system. And so Alberta Education requires us to, or allows boards to look at these courses that are developed by other school boards and approve them for use in your high schools on a 4-year rotational basis. And so every 4 years, the board is asked to reapprove courses they've approved before and approve new courses for use in our high schools. And so that's what we're here today to discuss. You've got a list of courses that we're asking to be reapproved for use next year. And for, I'll run down this list really quickly just to help guide some understanding where these might be used. We look at our Chemistry Advanced. That is a course used in the Advanced Placement Program at Hunting Hills High School that allows those chemistry students to go beyond what the Chemistry 30 program of studies is and prepare them for the AP chemistry exam when they're done that course. competencies in math, you'll notice, was created by the Red Deer Public School Division, and we have 2 of those on record. This is a highly subscribed course that a few years ago, when they changed the math curriculum, it was identified that if you did not do well in grade 9 mathematics, you did not have the ability to be successful in either a math 10 common course or a 10-2 course, and you needed to go to a 10-3, which was very limiting for post-secondary. So this is a bridging course for students that felt they didn't get enough, or when teachers and working with parents didn't get enough understanding of the grade 9 math. They take this competencies course, and that allows them to go into a 10-2 and then a 10C course, and really opens up ability in post-secondary, availability to some courses. So that's a course that we developed, and we needed to redevelop, and so we're bringing back to the board for authorization to use. Drawing are courses used at both high schools to expand fine arts options, and so it falls kids that want to specialize. A typical arts course covers a variety of mediums. This really specializes in the drawing aspect of art. Guitar is a locally developed course that Nate had taught for us once, and various teachers have taught. An general interest course in the fine arts area that is highly subscribed in our high schools. Intercultural studies is used mainly right now through Gateway Christian when they do their hands trip. Other high schools can use this as a 3-credit study and to award kids credits when they go on a field trip. Musical theater performance is, it used to be that, you just did your plays and things like that for the love of doing it, but kids put in a lot of time, and also on their transcripts, our post-secondary institutions like to see that experience on there, and you can show them. So it is credits that get earned when a musical theater production is offered at our high schools. You see psychology in there, and there's 2 different psychologies. Wherever you see advanced, that is to meet the requirements of the advanced placement programs that are offered by Hunting Hills High School. Abnormal psychology is a psychology course not found in the program of studies, but if you're not in an AP program, you can take that as an option course as well. The high school's offering that. Scientific research is used by Hunting Hills, I believe, and Lindsay Thurber's looking at potentially using this. Again, just expanding beyond what the regular science curriculum is, and kids get rewarded for that time and their knowledge in that area. Technical theater is the lighting, the sound, the props, and those types of things. There's a huge production crew that goes into our productions, and the kids that put their time in there earn those credits in technical theater. So all of those courses have been approved in the past, and we're asking that the board consider reapproving those for use for another 4 years. The next thing you see in there is that we've been asked from Gateway Christian School to approve the use of a religious studies course called Christian Studies, developed by the Edmonton School Division. And for your information, a description and the guiding questions that this course follows are provided there for you. What Gateway Christian would like to do with this course is they have through K through 8 actually have religious studies, and they teach religion in our great Gateway Christian Alternative School. At the high school level, they have a bunch of different things to do with our 9 to 12 students at Gateway Christian School, but the principal's looking to really declare and make an affirmation of how this program is different and how it stands out from other programs. If you go to Red Deer Catholic schools, you must graduate with the religious studies course. And so what we're looking to differentiate, or what Gateway would like to help differentiate, and give some value to those kids that are putting in their time doing that by awarding them these credits that are available through a locally developed course through Edmonton Public Schools. So that's some information. I can answer any questions you have on that, but that's our asking here today is to approve those courses.
Thank you very much, Trustee McCullough.
Thank you, Mr. Lauer. Is there a fee with all or any of these locally developed courses as well? I just quickly looked back at our fee schedule and
So The only one, and again, I'm trying to remember from drawing, I don't believe, there might be a small fee when you look in art for drawing. I don't think there is, we try not to there. Guitar, there might be a guitar rental fee. Typically, not most high schools own their own guitars. There is maybe a small rental fee on replacement charges, but a lot of kids are bringing their own guitars. For the rest of them, there are no fees attached to those courses. And religious studies, there is a fee that you see in there to, and I forget the exact name of the fee that when you go to Gateway Christian School that you pay. I think it's right at the bottom of that list right there. But,
Yeah.
But that is covered, and so there's no fee on those courses.
Okay, if I may, one more question. On the new high school locally developed courses, was there any discussion with Gateway on having a variety of religions studied, not just Christianity?
Nope, there wasn't, and so the process is that we meet with high school principals and admin teams and provide them with the availability of courses out there and asking them, what meets needs for your programming. So I can tell you that I did not have that discussion with them. I can suppose it probably not, given that they're a Gateway Christian school, and that is part of their mission to bring, Christianity to light in their education. So, but I'm only supposing here.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Trustee Manning?
I'm prepared to make the motion that the Board of Trustees approve the attached courses as so eloquently outlined by Mr. Lauer, Deputy Superintendent Lauer, for the period of September 1, 2022 until their respective expiry dates as outlined in the memo.
Thank you very much. Trustee Waters?
Just a question for clarification, if I may. At one time, remember that if we went to another school division, we had to ask permission from that school division. Does that still happen now, or we all go through Alberta Learning?
No, so right now, after the board gives permission for us to use these courses, we reach out to those boards and ask for permission, and it's a formality. We're not allowed to say no. So right now, we are receiving a request to use our competencies in math, even though you have not approved it yet. It just takes so long. So we will be in the process afterwards of reaching out to those boards and saying, yes, our boards approved to use these, may we acquire them from you? And then they're allowed for 4 years in our provincial system. If we don't do that and a school tries to offer it to students, the students could sit there and take the course and now they won't get credit for it because it wasn't approved through the board for use in Alberta Education as a record that you approved it. So we have to get back and say, yes, our board's approved to use these courses and put it in PASI for us, for our kids to use.
Thank you.
Trustee Summers?
Thank you. Are we able to split this motion into reapproval of the existing courses that needed reapproving and the new courses?
That would be an amendment that you would have to make then.
Okay. Can I make that amendment to split the motion into two motions? One to approve or not approve or reapprove the courses that exist already, and one to approve the new courses.
Vice Chair Beaker?
So I don't think it'd be an amendment. There is no motion on the floor. So you could make the motion to approve the attached courses for renewal.
There is a motion on the floor.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Yes, there is. I'm sorry.
She
I'm
says
totally
represented,
wrong.
yeah.
Totally wrong. Would have been good though if you hadn't said it.
So you could ask for a friendly amendment, or it could be an amendment.
A friendly amendment to split those two.
Would you see that as a friendly amendment?
I would not.
Okay, so you'd have to make the amendment then.
Okay, so I make the motion to amend the motion, the previous motion, and split the motion into two. One to reapprove existing courses, and the next one to approve the new courses.
All those in
I have a
favor?
question if I can. Sorry. Can you explain your reasoning?
I can.
Do you want?
Short version.
Short version, because it's religious studies. That's the only reason. reason, and I don't feel it fits together with the rest of the studies.
Okay, all those in favor, and this is not to say that you are approving the amendment, this would, if you are in favor of this amendment taking over the old motion that's on the floor. All right, so all those in favor of the amendment? 2, 5, all those opposed? So the new motion on the floor it is split from Trustee Summers. So the Board of Trustee approved the attached high school locally developed courses to be reapproved for the fall 2022 use. So this is for the reapproval, correct?
That's the first motion.
That's the first motion. All those in favor? Carried. And second motion is for the new high school locally developed courses to be approved for fall 2020 use. All those in favor?
Okay, point of order, can I ask for an opportunity for debate on that first?
Yes.
Before it gets put forward?
For sure.
I'll go then.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. Well, I brought it forward. I appreciate Trustee Summers bringing this up. I looked at it as well, and there were some red flags that came up for me as well. I know Red Deer Public embraces and has embraced since 1999 Gateway Christian being a part of our family, and they are a part of our family, and we support everything they do in that school. I do have some concerns about these extra religious studies though that were being brought forth, and the narrow mannerism of that. And I know that's not a correct term, but they are a Christian school and they are learning about Christianity, but religion is a much bigger topic than that, and it causes me some concern that there isn't a more broader appetite to search out what other religions are and what other people's beliefs are, and to be able to examine your Christianity because of that. So I'm appreciative that you're bringing this forward, and I look forward to the debate around the table.
Thank you very much. Any other? Trustee Waters?
Well, try a stab at this. I don't have a problem with it being religion. It could be social studies. It could be anything that our schools teach, right? It's what they've been doing for so many years, and this is what their belief is. And I don't have a problem if they want to do this. I think it's their right, to be quite honest. And I would, as I think about it now, I'm glad we get to vote again. I don't have a problem with them teaching Christian religion in a Christian school.
Thank you very much, Trustee Manning.
If I could just point out, under the course description for the new courses, question 14, how can worldviews of major world religions impact responses to contemporary issues? I would suggest that they take a look at a lot of the different world religions, and there are many, and they all have value. And so I would suggest that they're maybe not as narrow of a perspective as perhaps we think. So before I would judge that, I would consider some of the course content on what they've outlined here.
Thank you very much. ATA President Nate Seiler, I see your hand is up.
Thank you. I'm just speaking right now as a high school counselor who brings in school transfers from Edmonton and Calgary. And I certainly know from experience that there is religious meanings 20 and world religion 30, and they are not locally developed courses, which I don't know if that brings greater ease. I just want the board to be aware that those courses, religious meanings 20 and world religions 30, are offered in, I'm going to say predominantly Edmonton and Calgary.
Are they Christian based? Are they coming from that lens, or is it a wider sort of more polyglot kind of look, saying, here's Buddhism, here's Shintoism, here's Islam, et cetera, as opposed to saying we're looking at it through the Jesus Christ lens, right? The Christian lens.
The best answer I could give to that, Trustee Gould, is that I remember, because of course when we bring them in as counselors, I'm looking at their codes to find equivalent courses, and the one on religious meanings falls under the exact, like, is coded under Western philosophy, part 1 and part 2, so it probably fits there, whereas the world religions code is very separate. On a PDF I can gladly share if the board would be curious to see. Now those are not locally developed courses because they have an SSN code beginning off the top.
Okay, Trustee Gould?
Yeah, so I guess I'd have a question as to how they see this fitting in with their regular curriculum. I don't know their curriculum at that school and how much religion they're getting. So I would say, is this, in a sense, icing on the cake or adding to something that they're already getting lots of in the first place? And what the point of this course is, because it's a Christian-oriented school, therefore it's going to be looking at everything as you see all over the school through a Christian lens, right? So my question is, okay, what kind of is the purpose? I agree.
Can I answer that? So
Yeah.
I think what's happening is that this actually is already happening in Gateway School. This is an opportunity for them to receive credits for work that they are already doing. So that way, similar to when we had the conversation about the sports academy, right? So right now they're not receiving credits for the religious studies that they're doing. So the administration has sought out a course, and this one is from Edmonton Public, so that the work that they're already doing, they can now obtain credits for that work.
So it formalizes what they're
That's
getting
correct.
That's correct. They've been
all
doing
through
it for a
their,
while.
right.
And so if I do just add to that, when I
Sure.
spoke to Mrs. Lehman, she said they often get questions like, what makes you stand out and makes you different? So they're able to talk about, they do these things, they have devotional time, they have their different times where they do volunteerism and things like that. This rewards kids for the things that they're already doing and learning and talking about with credits for that time, which are important for high school kids to graduate from, right? And so that's really, they're doing these things, it's not new, we'll be adding extra time into the student's day, just a recognition of, and I believe that you know, when she reached out to this, that's what, you know, Christian-focused schools in Edmonton Public are using and doing in a similar manner.
They've been doing this for a while.
Yeah.
Trustee McCauley?
So one of my triggers during this conversation is the statements on the kids are already doing this and we've been doing this for a while. In my interpretation, by the board approving this, that means we're okay with it. And what I'm seeing around the table is there are some concerns that we're not okay with this, even though this is something they're already doing or they're doing already and they should be rewarded for it. Great, but that isn't going to make my decision go either way because they're already doing it. Now it's brought to my responsibility on whether I want the students to be accredited with credits because of this. We have had a numerous amount of conversations over the decades on what a school's responsibility is and what a church's responsibility is and how it fits with the Catholic schools in this province. We have fought tooth and nail when it comes to what the Catholics are teaching to their students, and we have been deadly against some of the church teachings that they have been doing in the Catholic schools. And now we have a comment saying that we should be teaching it in the schools because that's what the school does. Well, I think there'll be some different opinions and points of view around this table on what exactly belongs in a public school and what belongs in a church. And in my opinion, some of those things should not overlap. They really shouldn't. And when I look at number 7, and it says it a couple places here, how can Christian values guide our ethical decision making? Tone or not, background or not, it makes me interpret it as, is that the only values to make an ethical decision? Do you need to have Christian values? And I know a lot of individuals that aren't Christians and they're very ethical. So we're blurring the lines there, so.
Thank you
I'm
very
having
much.
trouble supporting this.
Can I
Going
see
in.
clarification with regards to what the contract stated when we took over Gateway becoming a private school coming under the umbrella of Red Deer Public? Because I do understand that there is a elemental piece of them to be able to provide their Christian studies in that school the way that they are, correct?
I would have to go and review the contract. I wasn't in administration at the time, but when they did come in under a Christian alternative, that's what I would have to check into. I'm sorry.
I believe that we Gateway Christian School is part of Red Deer Public Schools.
So
If at this point, this board is questioning whether or not you wish to have an alternative program with a religious base, then, you know, I think that's a bigger question than these locally developed courses, approving those locally developed courses. And it causes me some concern. This conversation causes me some concern. So if you expect to have a Christian alternative program and not allow them to teach Christian content, then I'd say you've got a big problem.
Yeah.
It would be like having a sports academy and saying, oh, well, we can't teach sports.
thank you very much. Trustee Waters.
I was on with Bev when we did that. You know, we had a tough decision, but we made the right decision. And yes, there's been bumps, but it's like anything else. You work at it, you smooth it out, and keep going. And again, what they wanted to offer at the time was they give up their private status to come underneath the umbrella and follow us. And it's no different than our alternative programs that we have when we teach French, we teach Spanish. Right? To me, it's no different. And if you start going after one, then you better go after them all.
All right, with regards to the motion from Trustee Summers, let me reword it, or say it again. The Board of Trustees approved the attached courses, or new high school locally developed courses to be approved for fall 2022 use for the period of September 1 to 2022 until their respective expiry dates. All those in favor?
A clarification, I don't think that's the motion that Angela made. Angela made the motion to separate the two.
Yeah, there's old and then there's new. That's why I referred to.
But she didn't make the motion to approve the new one. She made the motion to separate it, and Bev made the motion to approve the old ones. There was no, so they were separated, and then there is no motion to approve the new ones yet.
My motion was to approve all of them.
Yes, and then there was an amendment, and then the question was called right after that.
Just for the amendment to make them separate. So there is no motion on the floor now unless.
I thought I called the question right after that. I called the
I thought
question.
you did.
Who made it then?
What do you have called?
So there's two, am I correct, Kathy? I call referred you, but there's two motions, correct now?
It
Yes.
was my impression that they were separated into two motions. Now, did Trustee Summers
Oh, in that motion.
intent?
My intent was not to call to approve the second motion.
Can you take off?
Yeah, just to
Thank you.
My
separate
intent
them.
was, my intent was only to separate it, not to approve
So
the
we need a
new.
new motion
Yeah.
to approve.
We need a new
But
motion.
the original motion was to approve all of it, so if you separate it, then it would be approve one and then approve the other, so.
You did separate it. When you said you
Yes.
wanted to separate it. So there was two separate, right?
Yeah, but I didn't make the motion to approve these courses.
Okay.
You made the separation motion.
Yes, I made the separation motion.
Or we just voted.
But then we already had voted on the first part for the high school locally developed courses to be reapproved for fall 20. So those have already been approved, right, Colin? What motions do you have right now?
Yeah, I have that. I assume that Trustee Summers had put forward the motion to reapprove the existing locally developed courses. And I have that as being approved. And then there's the discussion on the new courses. So there isn't a motion currently on the new courses. So that motion has to be put forward, but I assume that Trustee Summers was.
Yeah, because I thought you, when you separated it, I thought you were making the two new motions, but, okay.
For clarity, I will be happy to make that second motion that the board approves the new high school locally developed courses.
Thank you very much. All those in favor? All those opposed? That is carried 4-3.
That's a big job.
10.8, ASB Budget and Bylaws Bulletin, Colin Kearney.
So the ASBA spring general meeting will be held on June 6th and 7th. And so attached to the memo is the budget bulletin for everyone's review. I guess I open up the floor, I guess, if anyone has any comments or questions regarding what's contained, I guess, within that bulletin regarding the budget.
Thank you very much. Trustee McCauley?
Questions for clarification. Trustee Peacock brought forward a great question and something for the zone to consider bringing forward to ASBA, their timing of it. My understanding is that they did it different this year, right? We were supposed to get the zone or the budget presentation at our April meeting. Isn't that what we've always had in the past, or at least before?
Right, we previously had it at our April meeting. I don't know why they thought they're gonna present it at our May 30th meeting, which is, of course, after I think possibly every board in our zone has had their May board meeting, their final meeting. So I raised that as a point. I think we'll see them realize that that was probably an oversight on their part, because I had several other trustees when I brought it up agree. And there was no reason that it couldn't be presented in April, because this budget video with the CEO walking through the budget came out to us probably in early April. So I just think it was an oversight on their part, and you know, it was pointed out to them, and I think we'll see it come forward in April next year, I would hope.
Yeah, so I appreciate you bringing that forward as eloquently as you did. I would have maybe not used the term oversight, but I'm glad they're gonna look at it for the 2023 year.
Trustee Waters?
So the concerns that we may or may not have, when do we get to do we just call you or text you or sit down and talk to you, or how do you want to do it? Because we didn't get this till last week.
No, this was sent out to us weeks ago.
Oh, or weeks ago,
Yeah,
sorry.
so I re-forwarded it in the last
Right.
few days, but it did come out weeks ago. And I believe, I haven't seen the agenda for May 30th zone meeting, but I believe they indicated it was going to be reviewed at that point. Now, who is planning on attending the spring general meeting for ASBA? And I am, and Trustee Gould,
Is
you are.
that virtual or not?
That one is virtual.
It's hybrid?
It's hybrid.
Okay, I'm
so-
going to that then.
Well, registration would already be open, so, you're not there?
Yeah, no, I already
Okay.
put my hand up. Yeah,
So-
I'm there.
So there would be an opportunity at the SGM. I don't know about Bev if she's attending, but there'll be 6 of us there. Now, if the budget is being reviewed by ASBA at our May 30th meeting, anybody in attendance then could ask a question too. But since 6 of us will be together at the SGM, we'll certainly have a chance to debate it. I did a few highlights, but it was nothing more than what was in the video. So it is perhaps I don't know if Colin wanted to do a walkthrough of it, or I could just do some highlights I took from the video.
Yeah.
Okay, are you gonna be at ASBA SGM? We're just looking to see who else is gonna be there at ASBA SGM.
Yes.
Yeah, so the 7 of us will be there, Trustee Waters, so we can discuss it before we vote. But a couple of things, and the video goes through, it's hard to take all the notes, but variables impacting the proposed budget. The per diem costs, which were increased a year ago, effective September, we know that those are, our board did not support that budget because of that, but that is causing an increase to their proposed draft budget. Their lease arrangement has changed, so there is no other organization now sharing the lease with ASBA. And while they are actively looking for someone else to share the lease costs, it is difficult to lease at this time with COVID. We know there's empty office buildings. They will continue doing hybrid events, so they're saying there's costs associated with that, but that does allow for increased participation. So a cost that perhaps is justified, or could certainly be argued that it's justified. And they are aiming to provide bookkeeping services for all zones. Right now, the looking after the zone account is done by the chair's treasury secretary treasurer. Yeah. And then, so they are seeking a 3% increase in member fees. And one of the points they raised that sort of highlights what they, anyhow, going forward, they are or will be offering a certified leadership program for trustees. I'm not familiar with that program. That hybrid meetings will continue. They have $40,000 allocated for First Nation, Métis, and Inuit initiatives. Their service fees, so those are when you use a consultant, they will remain the same. ASBA will continue to cover the costs of the travel for those consultants if they're coming to your district, and that they point out that those service fees from their consultants are below market value. There will be a deficit of $411,580, so drawing from their reserves. No cost for Speaker's Corner, which I guess when they have PD, that must be it, and that PD, they're assuming that's what it is, that's going to be offered virtually, so certainly for boards to be able to attend that, no cost to the board at all, as far as any fees being paid to ASBA, because it's virtual and there's no charge to attend it. And they have a grant development department, and I must say in recent years, I have seen this with ASBA really pushing forward on obtaining grants. So those are just some of the points that I took out of the video, and as I said, you can ask questions at the zone meeting if it's presented at the zone meeting, or otherwise we're all together, 7 of us. So. At the Cambridge Hotel, or I guess virtually. And that is, well, that's Colin's report.
That's Colin's report. Would anyone like to make a motion?
Thank you.
If I'd like to ask a question, if I could, Kathy.
Yeah.
On the 3% increase for our fees,
Mm-hmm.
do you know if the ASBA, through their history, has ever lived within their means of their budget without increasing anything?
Oh yeah, they show the chart here, and over the last 5 or 6 years, I don't know what page it's on.
Yeah, but if you look at what they went and hired a whole bunch of people.
So yes, they have increased their staffing under the board's authorization, I guess it indicated. So on page 76 of our package, it does show the membership revenue in 2015-16. It went down by 2%, then it was 0.0, and then a 6% increase in 2018-19, 0%, then a negative 3%, and then a 0.
I guess the point I'm trying to make is school boards have got 0, and we've lived within our means. And the ASBA, for some reason, can't live within their means. You know, that's the only thing I'm trying to say is, if school boards are told this is how much money you get, you make it do. PSBA or ASBA should be no different. That's all I'm trying to say.
Colin?
I just wanted to note in their Schedule 1 that says 2021 actuals, they had a surplus of 183,000. I don't know anything beyond that, right?
So I guess my question would be, if they had a surplus, then why now would they be requesting a budget increase of 3%? We've, never mind, I can't say that. Yeah, anyways, I'm concerned. I don't know why there has been the increase in hiring that there has been with ASBA. We've seen that over the last couple, 3-ish years. I wouldn't go hiring a bunch more staff and then go, oh, hey, school boards, now I require you to pay me 3% more. And also our hands are tied with regards to our membership of this association anyways. So, again, a broader conversation I think needs to be had with this, Trustee Waters.
So what happens if a school board decides we're not gonna pay you 3%? We're living with our means, you live within yours. And if a bunch of school boards did that, what would they do? I mean, that should be an option for us.
Trustee McCollum?
My understanding is that's why we get a vote.
Yeah.
And we vote and we proceed on how the vote is. So we do have a chance to have our say, but can we just leave?
No, we can't. Yet.
Sorry, you made that motion,
Yeah,
correct?
I'll make the motion to accept the bylaws,
Budget bulletin.
budget bulletin as presented. No, there is no, so usually it's the bylaws and bulletin motion, so same bulletin, or just budget, bylaws and budget bulletin, and so it is just the budget. So as of the time when this was put out, there was nothing brought forward. There is the opportunity, if a emergent issue comes forward, it needs a 2/3 vote to get onto the agenda. So far, I've not heard of any. And then there's also what they call for the new trustees an extraordinary motion, which arises from the business of the business meeting, and that also requires a 2/3 vote. Now, PDAC, the Policy Advisory Development Committee, is meeting May 30th. If anything comes to them, any emergent issue comes to them at that time and they approve it, then it's put on the agenda and it's only maybe a 50% approval by membership.
Or it's
Anyhow,
50+1?
Those are all the fun details you'll get to see on this.
But as of now, there's
No, nothing, just the budget.
Trustee Summers?
So, the fact that this is a report, right? Do we need to vote on this at all? Because it's just a report, and I think I read in Robert's rules that if it's a report, there's no need for a vote.
Vice Chair Pico?
Right, oh, yeah, so this is a draft budget, and I think if we weren't all gonna be together, if we had somebody who's gonna be voting on behalf of the board, our board, we may want to make a motion to accept or not accept the budget and delegate that trustee representative to vote on our behalf. Or else to say, here's how we're feeling about this budget, but Trustee Buchanan, please listen to the debate that day, and you know our board's wishes, but there may be something you hear that will change your mind. And actually, it is the chair who votes, but we're all gonna be there, so we can, it's just one vote. I mean, sorry, there'll be those there'll be the simple votes for accepting the minutes and stuff. But you're right about what we heard earlier today on the Robert's rules. So I said what did Diana say to us?
Information.
She said not to accept it as information.
There's no
But it is
motion.
information.
Yeah, there's no motion.
When you
Colin?
receive a
A
report, there's no
a
motion.
report is received.
Yeah.
So would
Still
Colin then
received
just
as
say that
information.
the budget bulletin was received?
Yes.
And so we're not making a motion then?
Colin?
I was just gonna comment, I think we had made a decision that we would kind of go with today's normal format, and then,
Yeah.
because it was
Okay.
so early.
Yeah.
Or so recent that we just had it, that
Mhm.
the normal process, and then hopefully change.
So I would
Yes.
move that we accept the budget bulletin as information.
Thank you very much. All those in favor?
Even though we're out of order.
Carried.
I have a question about the SGM, if I may.
Absolutely, go ahead.
Since it is virtual, are we having an opportunity to meet here as a board?
It's hybrid. So I'm going to be
Most
at
of
the
us will be
Cambridge
there.
Hotel.
Oh, okay. Yes.
Except for one. I think all are in person except for one.
Fair enough.
For ASBA.
Thanks for the clarification.
10.9 ASBA report to Vice Chair Pico.
I don't have anything to update other than what was in the highlights. And I don't recall that there was anything outstanding when I reviewed the highlights. Alberta Ed report with Maureen Melnick there. We did have a chance to send her back with a few questions to bring back to our zone meeting in May. A couple of them about ASCA, the change in the funding, or well, the removal of funding from ASCA. And one of the questions that be interesting to see what she takes back to the ministry. Why is the government not listening to the majority of voices when we've asked repeatedly for a delay in the curriculum? So she's going to come back to us with a report, with an answer from back from the ministry. Why are there so many strings attached to the $500 funding for school councils when the government has, cut ASCA's funding, and then is also at the same time saying we're making $500 available to school councils? And I was at the attended the ASCA conference, and parents have a lot of questions about that money, how it can be used, and how it's actually received. And I think what my opinion is that the Alberta government did not do any consultation on bringing this forward, and so that the money is not going to be I would think a lot of the money will not be used just because people don't know what to use it for. Yes, and of course, May 30th, the evening, is the Edwin Parr event to recognize Edwin Parr nominees. Oh, so yes, in the notes, it does say they will do the walkthrough of the budget at the May meeting. It does highlight that in here.
Thank you. And because we are following our old.
Yes, move acceptance of my report as information.
Thank you very much. Questions regarding, or all those?
Question, please.
Trustee McCauley, go ahead.
Trustee Peacock, am I remembering correctly, was there a little bit of discussion on how the meetings starting September 1st will be, if they will all be in person or virtual or split?
I don't recall that discussion. I mean, we've really been going month by month. So this is our first meeting, of course, in person since I think the fall of 2020. We, I think, met in person then. So no, as far as I know, that would be a decision that will have to come up later. So will our first meeting at the end of September, which is usually Wolf Creek, be in person or virtual? I don't know. I mean, yeah, I don't recall any discussion about it, but I may have opened up to them.
Trustee Waters?
Regarding the Edmund Parr Award, the candidate has been picked. Our meeting was Zone 4 with the chair and vice chair. The committee is to have a discussion. I'd love to share all the good things with you at the next board meeting in private.
Thank you very much.
Right, and we did recognize our Edwin Parr nominee last meeting. She was here.
Thank you very much. With regards to Vice Chair Peacock's motion, with regards to accepting her ASBA report as information, all those in favor? Did you have another question on top?
Just getting ahead of you.
Perfect, thank you. PSBAA report, Trustee McCauley.
Thank you. Along with Trustee Buchanan, Trustee Summers, and Trustee Waters, the four of us were in Edmonton April 6th, 7th, and 8th for the April PSBC meeting. It started off with a dinner and a speaker. The speaker was Darwin Lee, and I found him very inspirational. This was a gentleman that overcome a tragic event in his young life by almost drowning, and how he moved forward from that. It was good to hear, and it was good to reevaluate the choices for me that I make in my life because of whatever circumstances came up. We're all impacted by whether a good thing happens to us or a bad thing, and I just thought it was a very good speaker, and thank you to PSBC for having them come forward. Our professional learning day on the Thursday started off with a presentation from Aspen View Schools titled "We Are Better Together," and I thought it was, again, a great story on how one of the communities in Aspen View had to come together and support a school that was going to be built by another district that wasn't theirs. And the consultation and the information, it was great how they worked together. Then was State of Alberta Politics with Maurice. Again, this could be something that we do bi-weekly, and it would be a new topic every time. So he's a very knowledgeable fellow that kind of has his pulse on what is going on around the province. After lunch, we had a report and a presentation from Mark Critch, which he's the president of the Alberta School Board Contractors Association. We are out of the loop a bit in Red Deer Public when it comes to some of the rural issues that districts are having with their buses. We're very fortunate we do not have hours and hours on a bus that our kids have to be on, and some of the weather situations and the availability of drivers, and of course we have to deal with the price of gas and the price of insurance. That was still one of the biggest issues that they're having with transportation. So I definitely, my heart goes out to our rural colleagues and what they're fighting for, and anything that benefits them, I hope will benefit, you know, any of the metro or urban as well. Our last professional learning on the Thursday was strategic communication with Heather Massel. Is it Massel? How do you say
Massel.
it? Massel. You know, she knows her stuff. She talks about what needs to be done, how boards can work better together, and I really learned a lot about it. The actual council meeting on the following Friday was full of reports from the executive and the executive director on where they're going and their work plan. And if there was anything else anybody would like to add who was there either virtually or in person, the only thing I'd like to say is that there was big support for some of their knowledge and increased PD on the truth and reconciliation. So I look forward to that coming. It was a great 2.5 days.
Trustee Summers?
Do you happen to know if the webinar on private schools, that presentation on private schools, is public? With PSBA?
No. So they are being recorded and they are being distributed individually, but they are not being posted for a few different reasons. It is no longer embargoed, though. It was an embargo document until that presentation. Vice Chair Peacock.
So, thank you. And we did sort of highlight a few things, so I was glad to hear your highlights as well. I thought the PD that was just excellent, that session. Anyhow, I see that the SGM schedule has been posted. I hadn't seen it before, so it looks like some great sessions coming up to us in the early June. I see David Johnson, the former Governor General, will be speaking. We also have Valuing Wellness in Red Deer Public School Division with Nicola Golby and Trevor Pickert presenting Saturday morning, half-hour session. And then National Anthem, Lindsay Thurber's choir will be singing. So, great. So if registration is open for both PSBA and ASBA's SGMs, and Mandy has asked us to, so if you haven't already indicated, let Mandy know so she can register us. And I do have a question for Trustee McCauley. Are you receiving, after PSBC sessions, a highlights report?
Yes, are they going to?
No, they're not. So there's
My bad.
just a gap. So
Okay.
I don't think I've had them for a while, but perfect.
I will forward them until our orientation
Next month.
and whoever, if it's not me, is the new rep, please forward them to everybody.
Would you like to move your report as information?
So moved.
Thank you very much. All those in favor? Carried. Superintendent's report, Superintendent Erickson.
Yeah, pretty self-explanatory outline of some of the activities there, including our Easter break / spring break that was in there, but it is transfer season, so I've spent a lot of time over the past week and a half making our transfers across a number of our schools. So there'll be a new look in many of our schools come fall with new administrators, whether it's principal, vice principals, and we look forward to the changes that are happening in our division.
Vice Chair Peacock.
just noting you had a meeting with CARE, which made me think, have we had some students from Ukraine enroll in our district?
Yes, we have. Dan, do you have the exact number? We were having our schools send us names and on a spreadsheet that we were collecting because the ministry had said if we hit a crisis point in terms of supporting them, that there would be a way that we could access some crisis funds for supporting them. So we haven't hit that point yet.
I don't have the, I'll look it up as we speak here. The last time we checked, it was only 3.
There's one little girl at Fairview who's making smoothies with us.
Frank from CARE had let us know that he believed in Central where there's 100 families that had located in. Some hadn't enrolled their kids yet, some had gone to Red Deer Catholic, but we put it out to our schools to let us know, and I can update you on that.
And there's a special registration procedure for them in terms of how we would register if they do show up at our schools and which coding we attach when they do arrive, so our schools are well aware of it and how to approach it when they do arrive at the school.
Thank you.
Thank you. Would someone like to move the superintendent's report for information? Thank you very much, Trustee Waters. All those in favor? Carried. Board Chair's report. I do not have anything to report at this time. So we move on to celebrations. I can't remember which direction I went last time. I will head in this direction. I'd ask for one celebration to be shared, and then we will move along. Superintendent Erickson.
I'm just gonna pass today, thanks.
Trustee McCauley.
My one celebration then will be the fabulous time I had at the Hunting Hills High School GSA meeting a couple Tuesdays ago. Met a gaggle of wonderful individuals and teachers that support them. Even learned some new terms and references that were unknown to me on what is going on in that community, and so proud of their bravery and their openness and willing to share their stories and their ideas, and they're moving forward, and they're very grateful to have Trustee Gould, a little part of their mentorship as well, and they're doing great things, and I was very grateful to be part of their meeting, so.
Thank you very much, Trustee Gould.
Speaking of that, I'm really excited. This is sort of a celebration going forward. I'm excited to be one of the keynote speakers invited to Lindsay Thurber's Pride on the 8th of June. There are going to be 2 of us, and yeah, I'm really thrilled, and I'm looking forward to continuing to support that community very obviously. So that's for celebrating for me. I gotta find new clothes though, so I'm in trouble.
Yep.
Trustee Waters.
Well, I'm gonna celebrate up here because the last meeting I got COVID, it lasted 10 days and then the after effects lasted till Sunday. So yeah, it's nice to be around and doing things, but I sure wish I could get rid of this cold.
Bruce.
I'll pass, thank you.
Associate Superintendent Ron Eberts.
I will pass also.
Thank you. Deputy Superintendent Dan Lauer.
I'd like to celebrate the beginning of our preparation for our K-3 teachers to implement the new curriculum. At the end of today, we will have completed bringing down our kindergarten and our grade 1 teachers and introducing them to the ELA and mathematics K-3 curriculum. I think you'll be pleased to hear that many of the recommendations that were brought forward by boards and others were implemented in the ELA and mathematics curriculum K-3, and part of our message and what we're hearing from teachers when they've now got a chance to see it and sort of prioritize it is that they're quite happy with the K-3 ELA and mathematics curriculum, and they're relieved it's not a huge change, but there's some more structure and language arts to how you're teaching it, and there'll be some resources. But word I got from the SJs and learning services is that there's just a bit of a relief on those teachers after now that they've been introduced to it. The plan moving forward, of course, is for the rest of this school year to bring down next would be the 2s and then the 3s, and then also helping prepare things for teachers to be able to implement with that new curriculum in our new learner management system in September. So the process is underway and it's pretty good, and it is adding to some relief for teachers that are getting to see it for the first time and prioritizing.
Thank you very much. Colin.
house.
Thank you very much, Trustee Manning.
Thank you. I would like to celebrate Mrs. Lothammer at Glendale Science and Technology School, and her little drama club that she has worked diligently with. They produced a little play called the Purloined Letter, and it was very cute and very well done. It amazes me how people can memorize lines. And these are like middle school kids. I don't know how they do it, but it was very well done. And because Colin and Chad both passed, I'm going to take another one. I would like to celebrate our citywide school council. They had their final meeting last night of the year, and I think I think their meetings this past year were rich in a lot of good discussions and conversations and information. And so I would also like to thank Sarah Rawlinson and Shelley Odishaw for their service on that committee.
Thank you. Vice Chair Pico.
Thank you. As I indicated earlier, I attended the ASCA conference and AGM, and I want to thank each and every member of their board of directors who have been working under very difficult circumstances, and their staff, and they have had to make significant cuts to their staffing. As I mentioned earlier, they have no funding now from Alberta government. And so for each one of those board members who has either has stayed on the board or this at their AGM in last month, let their names stand once again for re-election. That takes a lot of courage to be willing to run a board under such difficult circumstances. And congratulations to and thank you to Brandy Ray, who is continuing as president, and to Shelley Odishaw, who is continuing as vice president, for their renomination. So thank you to both of them.
Thank you very much, Trustee Summers.
Thank you. I would like to celebrate Fairview School. Trustee Gould and I had an opportunity to make smoothies with the ESL students. It was awesome, and they haven't been able to do that since pre-COVID. So everyone was quite excited, and it was very fun.
Thank you very much. I'd like to celebrate the Red Deer Chamber of Commerce. I had an opportunity to attend their breakfast with our local MPs, and it was fantastic. And that is it. So I would look for a motion to go back into private. Thank you very much, Trustee Waters. We will take a 10-minute bio break. Actually, let's make it 12 minutes. We will